It's happening! You asked for this. You must choose. What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. It's finally happening. You asked for this. This is going to be my ultimate Sonia G face brush guide for you all. I'm going to be ranking all 25 of my Sonia G face brushes in different categories to let you guys know what are the ones that I recommend the most. I do love all of my brush babies, but unfortunately, you guys are making me choose between them. So that's what this video is going to be. I hope that this is super helpful for you guys. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. And also, before we get started, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Sophia. This is my channel, Sophia Sees Beauty. I am a complete luxury beauty addict. I am a foodie and makeup brush addict, and I love doing new makeup reviews and instructional helpful videos just like this one. So if that is your jam, hit that subscribe button to join our fam because we have a lot of fun over here on this channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, party people. So here's how this video is going to go down. 25 brushes is a lot of brushes to rank. So what I did is I broke up the brushes into 4 different categories because not all the brushes have the same intended use. Some of them are very big, some of them are smaller for more detailed work. So I will have timestamps down below if you want to kind of skip around, or maybe you're coming back to this video and you're looking to shop for a blush brush, a highlighter brush, etc. All of these brushes are handmade in Japan by artisans, so that is reflected in the price. I'm going to link all of them down below. I do use affiliate links, so if this video is helpful to you, shopping through those links is a really great way to support my channel. Everything is very thoughtfully designed by Sonia G. I don't want to say that if I rank a brush lower than the others, that it's a bad brush. I love all of them, but of course, like there's gonna be some that I use or that I like more than others. And so hopefully you can come away from this video understanding what's gonna be the best brush for you. So the first category is gonna be like the bigger face brushes. So things for like bronzer, all over face powder. We have some multi-purpose brushes in that category. The next category is going to be kind of like for sculpting and contouring. Then we're gonna be doing cheek, smaller cheek blush brushes. And then finally, I'm gonna end things with more like highlighter, small, detailed precision brushes. So all the timestamps will be down below. That's your quick little caveat. Let's get into it. Starting off with the larger face brushes, most of these are used for all over powder, also bronzer. Some of them are a little bit more multi-purpose than others. The one that I am ranking at the very bottom is actually one of the ones that comes in one of the new Sonia G Fundamentals set, but I have the older version. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is still available, but with a new handle, and that is the Sculpt one. I've had this brush for quite some time. I used to use it a lot more than I used to, but it just isn't my favorite anymore, and mostly because Sonia G has just come out with what I think are better brushes, what I think are so great, some of my most used brushes in my collection. So we're gonna get to that in just a second. I think the reason that I don't really use this one anymore is because it is just so large. I think it is great if you want something that's going to give you a very diffused look or like a soft contour. It does have a multi-purpose element to it because it's like a narrow fan brush, but I don't know, I just find it a little bit more awkward to use. Like it's so big that I just don't get the precision that I want. That's also a reason why I wanted to create this video in the first place. There are some brushes in the new Fundamental face set that I have and I just don't really use that much. So unfortunately, this is a really nice brush, but it is ranked at the bottom of the larger face brushes, at least in my collection. The next brush is a newer one that came out within the past year that a lot of you guys have asked me about. It is the Jumbo Bronzer. First off, it's such a beautiful brush. I feel a little bit bad ranking it kind of, as one of the lowest, the second to the lowest on this particular list, but I just don't use this one as much. And the main reason is because it is ginormous. It is so big, like it kind of really overwhelms my cheek and even my forehead. And I feel like I have a fuller face than most. I have not a very small forehead, and this still feels just a little bit too big for me. I think that this is good for, if you're someone that really wants quick all over powder, I think this is great. I also think this is great for body makeup if you want to brush bronzer onto your chest, something like that. But this is just a little bit too big for me. I prefer some of the other ones I'm going to talk about in a second, which I think give just a little bit more precision. This is really a little bit too big for me to use as blush. It's also too big and fluffy to use as contour. It's an excellent, good standard powder brush, But if you want something that's maybe a little bit more unique that you're gonna be spending your money on, this probably wouldn't be, I mean, it definitely wouldn't be my first recommendation. The next brush is one that I think a lot of you guys are gonna be surprised about. Forgive me, it honestly ends up in the bottom half because the other brushes in this category are just so darn good and I use them so much. It is the Niji Pro. This is a somewhat recent release from Sonia G. I actually did a fully dedicated review with demos, full explanation and everything about this brush, so I can link it down below. I think that this is a very good brush for those of you out there who you already have a lot of powder brushes. Maybe you're looking for something that is a little bit more unique. Like this wouldn't be the first brush, the first Sonia G face brush that I would recommend to someone out there that doesn't have any other ones from the brand. This is the one that I think is for those of you who already have a lot of brushes and you're like, okay, what's something like special I can add to my collection? Because this is very multi-purpose. I picked this up when I want kind of like a brush that I can do my entire face with, because you can use it for bronzer, you can use it for blush, it's a little big for highlight, and then you can also use it for contouring because the bristles are very firm and kind of densely packed. You get so much more precision with this than you do with the Sculpt one. Like this just kind of is a little bit too floppy. I like this one because I really feel like I can pick up any product, baked products, and really buff it onto the skin. For day to day, I think I prefer something that is kind of this shape, but a little bit fluffier. More on that in just a second. But if you have those kinds of hard to pick up products, this is gonna be your go-to for those. Ranked just above the Niji Pro is the Keyaki Niji. So it is a very, very similar shape, almost exact. I'm not gonna get like super technical in this video, by the way. This is supposed to be a very practical guide. I'm not gonna go into like the differences between the bristles and everything. I'm just gonna describe to you how the brush feels, how I like to use it, because I don't know if that necessarily helps you guys out. You can read on the Sonia G blog kind of all of the specs and the lengths of the bristles and everything. The differences between these are that this one is much firmer and denser, so you can really pick up a lot more product and deposit it in a more pigmented way. It's better for contouring. This one is a little bit fluffier, a little bit airier. It's great for kind of every day. I love the beautiful wood handles from the Keyaki line. It's supposed to be more of a travel brush, but like, I don't know, I travel with both of these and I use them all the time. This one's a little bit more everyday. I love the softness of this brush, and you still get that same kind of like precision that you get from the Niji Pro, but it's just a little bit airier. I feel like it gives me a more natural application for my makeup. Next up, we have one of the newer additions to my Sonia G face brush collection, and it is the Face Pro. This is a beautifully airy face brush, and what I really like about this is that it's not too big. So let me show you compared to the Jumbo Bronzer. It's a little bit smaller, and because it's also angled, it's more precise. I feel like it's less overwhelming. This is the brush that I would recommend as kind of like that everyday all over bronzer powder brush instead of the Jumbo Bronzer. I just prefer this shape a little bit more. You can just easily contour your face with bronzer. You can use this for blush because it isn't too big and it is angled. A little too big for highlight, obviously, but this is just a perfect standard brush for all powder products. I absolutely love it. The one that I am ranking before this, however, is one that I think is just a little bit more unique. So if you're shopping from Sonia G and you're going to be dropping the money for these handmade brushes, the one that I think might be a little bit more special than the Face Pro, as nice as it is, are the Buffer Pros. And I'm kind of lumping these together because this is the standard one and then this is the Keyaki version. They pretty much are like, they're the exact same brush, they just have different handles. If I had to choose one, I would probably choose the Keyaki one because, I don't know, I just think that the handle is super beautiful. These are great because they can be used for so many different things. Even more than the Face Pro, I really don't have buffer brushes this good from any other brand. Like Sonia G nails it with the buffer brushes, and I have more to show you in this video. This is probably my most used Sonia G brush ever. It legit works for so many things. It's the perfect size that you can use it for face powder, you can use it for bronzer, you can use it for blush, and because it's a buffer brush, you can really work it into the skin and it looks so incredibly natural. If you have a product that maybe is, a little bit more on the pigmented side and you want to sheer it out, this is great for that. If you have like an all over finishing powder, like the Givenchy Prism Libre powders, for example, or the Chantecaille blurring powder, things like that. So easy to just brush this on and buff it all over the skin to kind of smooth everything out. These are kind of marketed as like finishing brushes, but trust me, friends, these are incredibly versatile. So that's why I put these at number 1, because if you're gonna get one brush, I really think you can get very far by just getting one of these. On to the next category, friends. This category is gonna be all about brushes that are for contouring, sculpting, and defining the face. I have 6 brushes that are in this category, and the bottom 3 I'm gonna sort of present to you all together. So in the bottom, in order of the ranking, I have the Sculpt 2, the Sculpt 4, and then the Lotus base. These brushes, they are so gorgeous. In fact, I'm pretty sure that these are the hardest types of brushes for the artisans to make. Truly a work of art. Like, I love looking at them, don't really love using them. I don't reach for these really all that much. You're supposed to be able to take these brushes and kind of use them to sculpt the face and then kind of buff products into the face, picking up products that are maybe a little bit harder to pick up in the pan and really like blending them onto the cheek. But I feel like you can do that with the Niji Pro, and I much rather use one of the buffer brushes, or like, for example, the Face Pro, to do something like that. I don't know. And I have better contour brushes that I'm gonna show you in just a second. I always feel like with this, just because they are a thinner shape, that it ends up being a little bit streaky. It's almost like you need to go like this to kind of chisel the face and then work it in this way. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's too many steps. It's too many steps for me. Not every brush can be my favorite. I don't know, I just wouldn't use this for blush. I like something that's a little bit fluffier and airier to get a more natural look. You could use this for highlighter. You definitely could. That's probably what I will use these for moving forward. If you want to know about the differences between the 3 here, the Sculpt 2 versus the Sculpt 4, the Sculpt 4 is a little bit more angled, so that's why I ranked this one a little bit higher. It is also a little bit airier and fluffier. The Sculpt 2 is firmer and more even. So if you want to pick up like baked products and stuff, I would go with the Sculpt 2. Now, the Lotus base, I ranked this one higher than the other 2. Number 1, because it's gorgeous. It's probably one of the most beautiful brushes that I have in my entire Fude collection. It's also softer, but it's also very firm. This is something that I would use if I really wanted to like chisel up my cheekbone. By the way, I just want to point out that these 2 brushes, along with the Sculpt 1 that I showed you in the last category, these are all a part of the new fundamental face set that Sonia G came out with, but I have the old handle version. So that's also kind of why I wanted to do this video, because I think a lot of times people, they get kind of overwhelmed with like what brushes to buy, which I totally relate to. And so they buy the face set thinking that it's gonna cover all their bases. And then they get the set and they're like, wait, I don't know how to use half of the brushes that are in this set, and it might make more sense for you to pick up just one of the fan brushes to try them out and then curate your own set out of the other brushes that I'm going to talk about here today in the Sonia G collection. All right, we're putting the fan brushes aside. I have 3 more brushes to show you guys in this category, and all 3 of them are a part of the Sonia G Fusion series. This series of brushes, it can be used for powders, I suppose, but where they really shine are for cream and liquid products. The reason that they work for creams and liquids, unlike the other ones in this video, is because they are a mixture of natural fibers and synthetic fibers. They work so well for like cream bronzers, cream blush, foundation. And the next brush I want to show you in the ranking is this one. This is the Classic Base from the Fusion series. This is a really nice medium size where you can use it for foundation, you can use it for cream blush. See how nicely it just fits right there in the apples of the cheek. It's a little small for my taste for cream bronzer. I like something a little bit bigger. So I mostly use this for cream blush and foundation. And you know what kinds of foundations this really works for? The ones that come in those little annoying jars, like the Chantecaille Future Skin or the Suku foundation, pretty much like all my holy grail foundations that come in jars. And you guys always ask me like, oh, is that annoying to get it out of the jar? It's not, because I have this brush, and this brush perfectly fits in the jar, allows me to scoop out just enough. I put it on the back of my hand, I apply it. Even if you have maybe like a cushion foundation, you can use this to kind of like stab the cushion and pick up some product. So this, highly recommend if you're looking for something for foundation or cream blush. And then the last two in this category, I did have trouble choosing between for the ranking, and that's because I use them for very similar purposes, but for opposite aesthetics. Let me explain. So first off, here we have the Sheer Buffer. This is a relatively new release from Sonia G. This is supposed to be for sheer, more natural application of cream products. I really like this for a very natural cream bronzer and blush application. I don't think it works as well. You definitely can use it for this, but I don't think it works as well for contouring because of like the fluffy shape. You guys will notice that it has a duo fiber design. Some of the fibers are shorter and denser, and the other set of fibers are longer, wispier, and so it doesn't pick up too much product that then inevitably gets deposited onto your cheek and you're like, oh no, I put on way too much Rare Beauty liquid blush. How am I gonna blend all of this out? You don't have that problem with this brush. Now, the other one I wanna show you is the Jumbo Base from the Fusion series. This is better if you want more concentrated application of those same types of products. I feel like this one is a little bit better for contouring because unlike all of the fan brushes, this is like more chunky. You don't have to do as much blending. Like I just kind of take it, if it's perfectly under the cheekbone and in the hollows of my face, I blend it right out and I'm good to go. Like this is one of my go-to contour brushes, but because of the shape, like you can also use this for cream bronzer, but it's more for kind of like layering it on, packing it on. You can also use it for blush in the same regard. I think that this one is probably, like in comparison to the Sheer Buffer, I think it's better if you also want to use it for foundation. You can very easily paint on foundation with this brush. So I think it just depends, guys. If you want something that's better for like foundation, contour, and then you want like more pigmented blush and bronzer, go with this one. If you want something that's more like soft, sheer, you want a nice wash of color from very pigmented products and cream blushes, then go for the Sheer Buffer. Like I said before, nobody does a buffer brush like Sonia G. Sorry if the light keeps changing, friends. The sun's kind of like coming and going and I keep like moving my chair a little bit, so apologies for that, but we do have another category of brushes to get to. This category is going to be kind of like those more mid-sized brushes, ones that are really great for powder blush specifically, at least the way that I like to use them. And the one that I am putting, it's not a bad brush, but I'm putting it at the bottom. It is this one that is a part of the new Fundamental Face series. This is the Soft Buffer. This is, like I said, kind of like a smaller mid-sized brush. This is supposed to be really great at picking up product and then buffing it across the face. I think the reason that I have this ranked lower is because when I have a buffer brush, I much prefer this type of like fanned out shape. I feel like it does a much better job of diffusing the product. I have another one in this section of the video that I think is a lot better at doing just that, buffing the product. This is a little bit too pointed for me. I like something that's more fanned out, more wispy. It's not completely dense, but because of the shape, it's just not going to be my top pick. I do love the wooden handles that are a part of this new collection, but it's not enough for me to recommend this brush over the other ones that are in this section. Next up, we have the Cheek Pro. How cute is this little cheek brush? It is very dainty and rather petite. I think that this is a really good classic blush brush. However, I do kind of feel similar to how I felt about the Soft Buffer. Like, I'd like for it to be a little bit wispier and a little bit more fanned out if I want to avoid those situations where I go in with the blush, maybe it's a little bit too much, I put it on my cheek and I get that dreaded like spot that I then have to brush out. This is just a little bit small for my taste for a blush brush. If it's gonna be small, I prefer for it to be a little bit wispier so that I don't have to really like work it into the skin when I first go in with the color. Ranked right above the Cheek Pro, I also have the Lotus Cheek. These are incredibly similar. Like they're pretty much the same exact size, obviously different colors, but I think the one from the Lotus collection, at least to me, it feels wispier and airier. So I feel like it just gives me that more airy, very natural application that I'm looking for when I'm doing my cheek makeup. Also, it's a beautiful brush. Like it's so cute. It's pink and purple. And I don't know if I'd noticed this at first, but there are like very delicate little sparkles on the Lotus collection at the bottom of the handle. It's just an absolutely stunning, very aesthetically pleasing collection. So if you were thinking of getting the Cheek Pro, see if the Lotus one is in stock because man, it is gorgeous. Next up, we have a new brush shape that was just introduced as a part of the Fundamental Face collection. This is the classic Cheek. I have this one ranked higher. This is actually my favorite brush as a part of that new collection. So if you're wondering which one I would get out of the entire collection, it would be this one. And it is because you guessed it, it is softer and wispier. Oh my gosh, this is such a cute, airy little blush brush. I prefer it much more to the soft buffer. Like this just feels a little bit too like pointed to me. Like I said, I prefer the other buffer brushes that are in the Sonia G collection. This is just so soft and delicate and cute. I feel like I get a much wispier, softer, airier application with this one. It is such a beautiful, very, very cute brush. And then number one in this category, one of my favorite Sonia G brushes ever, it is the Smooth Buffer. I've said so many times, this is the brush I didn't know I needed. I kind of bought it on a whim. Somebody online influenced me to get this, and I'm so glad that they did because this was the first buffer brush. I think this might have been like the first buffer brush I've ever purchased. Certainly the first like good quality Fude buffer brush that I've ever owned. You can do so many things with this. Similarly to the Buffer Pro, it's great for, well, like buffing out products, getting a really seamless, natural look, finishing products, all that good stuff. But as you can see here, it is smaller. It has a much smaller surface area than the Buffer Pro. And that's why I don't have this in like the larger cheek category because this is smaller, I like to think of it more so as a blush brush and also for highlighter. This is also really, really good for those Guerlain meteorites. It fits in the little jar and you swirl it around and then you can just like buff it onto the face. It's the perfect size for that. I love this. It's one of my favorite brushes for applying blush, period. I'll show you a comparison against some of the other brushes that we just talked about. So here you have that Lotus Cheek. This is going to be kind of like the firmest and denser one. Then we have the new Classic Cheek right here. This is going to be a little bit airier, a little bit more precise placement of the product. And then right here you have the Smooth Buffer. Because this has a bigger surface area, I just feel like it's a little bit more user-friendly. Like you kind of can't go wrong. You just whack it on and it blends out so smoothly. But if you do want something more precise, I think going with this new Classic Cheek is a good way to go. Are you still with me? Because we have one more category to go, friends. This last category is going to be the smaller, more precise, more like detail brushes. I like to use a lot of these specifically for like setting powder just where I need it, and also for highlighter, very precise application of highlighter. And the first brush that I want to show you is from the Fusion series. This is the mini base. I want to show you a comparison up against the classic base that I used before. This is that one that I said is really good for those jar foundations. I just kind of feel like the reason that this is ranked lower and I put in a different category is because I just feel like it's a little bit too small for me to want to use for cream blush. It's also just like not really the right shape for contour. I don't use it for chiseling my face. I don't really reach for this that much. If anything, I think that this is good for concealer, but it's more of like a quick conceal, right? Like if you're feeling kind of lazy and you don't have a lot of time, I will go in with this. This is what I use today to kind of start off my concealer. It's not a super precise brush, so it's kind of like in the middle. It's not really what I would use for blush, but it's also not what I would use for touch-ups and precision work. So that's why it's ranked at the bottom. The next 4 brushes that I want to explain are all of these little small precision brushes, but 2 of them are for creams and liquids, and then these 2 are for powder products. So let me explain. These 2 are from the Fusion series. So first up, we have the Jumbo Concealer, which is a chunkier design. It is wider and a little bit flatter. And then we have this one, which is called the Soft Concealer. And this one has a more circular shape. The one that I like the best is the Soft Concealer, the one with the more circular shape. I don't think you need both of these. They're both really good, but they're just so similar. So I'm ranking the Jumbo Concealer a little bit lower, and then I'm gonna rank the Soft Concealer. I like this because I feel like it just fits right in that little tear duct region if I want to apply very natural concealer just where I need it on the under eyes. If I want to kind of even put on some eyeshadow primer, like this is perfect to just kind of smear it across the eye. If I want to delicately conceal around the nose, any little nooks and crannies on the face, this is the perfect shape for that. Whereas this, because it's flat, it's still really good. It's just like, it's not as good, if that makes sense. So that's how I would rank those 2. Now for the 2 that are designed for powder products, we have number 1, the Detail Pro, and then we have number 2, the Worker L. The difference between them is that the Worker L, this brown one, it is a little bit larger and fluffier than the Detail Pro. It was definitely hard for me to choose which one I like better. I think I still like the OG, the Detail Pro, and the reason is because it's just smaller. So I think it's a little bit more precise. I really like to use this for very precise powder placement. I have dry skin, so I don't like to overdo it with the powder. I don't use that much setting powder. So I just kind of go around the nose, maybe a little bit here, maybe a little bit under the eyes. This is just a bit more precise. The occasions when I think you should buy the Worker L is if you want this to be a little bit more multi-purpose where you can use it for highlighter. Because that this is a little bit longer and wispier, I do think it would make like a really cute precision highlighter brush. I don't really think that the Detail Pro, I mean, I guess you can do, but it's just like a little bit too small. I wouldn't want my highlighter to get streaky. So that's how I would rank these. If you know, you're looking for some precision brushes, I basically would get this one and then I would get this one. Those would be the 2. That would be the higher ones in the ranking. Last 2 brushes in this video, friends. These 2 are pretty similar, so I think they're also fairly interchangeable. The next one is one of my favorite Sonia G brushes ever. It is the Mini Cheek. Oh my gosh, what a cute little cheek brush. It's just so cute. And because it's so small and wispy, it's not something that I personally use for blush. Like this is almost, I don't know, I feel like this is comical for me to use for blush. It really depends on the size of your face. I use this for highlighter. I use it for highlighter because it's just so wispy and airy. It really applies the highlighter in a very natural way. I don't have to worry about it being like this awkward streak on my face. The brush that I ranked above this is from the Lotus collection. This is the Lotus Detail brush, and I ranked this one above it because it's cuter and prettier. It also is angled, and I think that that is going to work out for a lot of people and make it a little bit more multi-purpose. It's slightly bigger, okay, like just slightly, because the angled part makes this one a little bit longer. So you can use this a little bit more, I think, for blush. It covers a little bit more surface area. It's just as wispy. Like the bristles and the airiness feel almost the same between the 2. It splays out on the cheek a little bit more because of the shape. So I rank this one above it. Yeah, she's just cute. I love these tiny little face brushes. All right, friends, that's all I got for you. 25 brushes ranked. I finally did it. I hope that you found this video helpful. I really tried to do this video as though I was kind of talking to a friend that maybe didn't know a lot about Fude. Try and make it not as technical. I know that every single brush is designed to be used in different ways, but this is just how I like to use them. These are my personal preferences. I like to just keep it real with you guys. So now it is your turn. Sound off in the comments down below. Let me know if you own any of these, Which ones are your favorites? Do you have any recommendations on like other ways that I can use them? I'm all ears. Give us some ideas, guys. I hope that this video was helpful for you all. If you liked it, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, friends, I hope that you see some beauty in your day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.